It is Tuesday, November 29th. It's 5 p.m. And we're here this evening. This is a special board meeting for the purposes of presentation of the proposed budget for the village and for the year 2012. And we're here to discuss that. It's also an opportunity for the public to ask questions if they so desire. So having called the meeting to order, I would ask the clerk if she will please take the roll.
President Klein?
Here.
Trustee O'Brien-Berglund?
Here.
Ortner? Here. Stanford?
Here.
Thomas is absent at this time. Wecken?
Here.
And Zappa.
Here.
And I will note that Trustee Thomas has requested to participate by phone. So if you look at your agenda, the second item would be to address that situation.
Thank you, Becky. I would ask a trustee if they will please make a motion indicating whether or not to allow trustee, it doesn't have his name in the motion. Is that important?
Well, it's just an agenda item. That's not necessarily a motion.
Okay.
I would
You could use
think that
it.
you could use his
it.
name
All right.
specifically.
I'll move not to allow him to participate in a telephone discussion.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes. If this is in fact a bona fide emergency for Trustee Thomas, and it came up unexpectedly and he desires to participate, I think I could be persuaded to authorize it for tonight, but I would not at all authorize any kind of a blanket authorization for a village trustee to be able to participate by phone. We should not make it easy for people not to show up. So I'm willing to consider this if there are unique circumstances, and do you know what they are, Mr. President?
I do not know. I know where he is. I just found out where he is, but I don't know if we could call it an emergency. I believe it had something to do with previous plans.
That's my understanding, at least, is that he had planned a trip out of the country prior to this meeting being scheduled, and it would have been somewhat cost prohibitive for him to reschedule his trip in order to accommodate the special meeting tonight.
Well, we do in fact have a quorum without Trustee Thomas.
Yeah, he had just made the
I'm
request.
sympathetic to his wanting to participate, but we all have conflicts from time to time. If it's not a bona fide emergency, then I probably would vote for the motion.
Okay. Are there any other trustees who would like to register a comment?
I wasn't terribly opposed to it. I was just coming at it backwards.
Mm-hmm.
But I do agree with Darrell that as a precedent, it would want to do a lot of this. We don't have to. I think it's awkward.
I don't think that in the 8 years I've been here that this is the first time we've had somebody to do
20
this.
years plus I've been here, we've never done it.
Actually, there was one,
I wasn't here.
but it's not something that anybody does on a regular basis.
Let me ask this question to the board then. How do you feel about him participating but not being allowed to vote?
I don't see a distinct, I'm
Okay.
not trying
I don't
to
see a
exclude
difference.
the meeting. I guess the only point I wasn't trying to make a huge issue out of it. I just came at it backwards to get it going. But since it was brought up, I really don't care if Jim participates or votes tonight. I don't view the particular issues tonight to be that contentious, and frankly, I don't know why I'd even want to call in on the thing, but other than the obligated responsibility. So I don't have a problem with it tonight.
Okay.
I don't feel that we should do the phone interview. I mean, he had a conflict, and like Darrell said, we have a quorum here, and there's going to be times when all of us aren't going to be able to make a meeting.
I myself have not been able to make a meeting on occasion, so I can appreciate that.
Yeah, we have a quorum. There's no need.
Okay. Colleen?
I agree. I don't think it's necessary since we've got a quorum.
I'll then ask, we'll take a roll call vote then. Dan, would you care to start us off?
Yes.
Let me just remind you, yes,
Meaning,
meaning Meaning, no, it's backwards. I'm not trying to change your vote. It's just to make sure that we're clear on what the vote is.
No.
Yes?
Yes.
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 When he calls in, would one of you two gentlemen pick up the phone and say, sorry, Jim, you can't participate? Because he will be calling in at 5:15 our time. Okay?
Point of order.
Yes, sir.
When he calls in, I would see no reason why he could not listen if he wants to do that. He just is not participating in the meeting.
I don't know. I think he wanted to be able to vote, and it is expensive to call from Munich, and I don't know that he's going to want to be on the phone.
What I'm saying is
just
his choice.
Right.
But right, he's not going to be a voting member.
Or participate.
Right,
Right.
so.
In other words, he
yeah.
can listen.
Right.
Okay. Very good. Still a courtesy of at least answering the phone
Right,
when he
right.
calls. Okay.
Right.
Very good. It is at this time, do we need a motion to move into open public hearing? Would you, Mr. Stanifer, would you care to make a motion?
Yes, I move we can open the public hearing for the 2012 proposed budget.
Second.
All in favor of opening the meeting for a public hearing on the 2012 proposed budget indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right. As I gaze out, I don't see the public clamoring to speak to us. Gloria, would you care to present the budget?
I would. After several meetings and a lot of work, we have a proposed budget that allows the village to operate and allows for some upcoming issues that will happen next year that we need to have the funding for. So in front of you, you'll see what went to the paper. It's on the back side of the resolution, which will ask the board to make to vote on afterwards, after the public hearing's closed. I've detailed or summarized, I should say, all of the detail. There's three documents in front of you that I would like to call attention to. One is the detailed budget, which you guys should be all familiar with, and it is up to date. It has the actual through through November of this year and a projected year end, as well as the 2012 budget in there. This has not, the budget side of it has not changed since the last document you had. What would have changed is the actual and the projected for 2011. What I've done is I've taken the numbers, the summary numbers from the detail and summarized it on the second document, which is the budget comparison document. This one that you'll see here, and it's divided up by, I'll call it departments, is the way we verbalize it. But it shows the same information, only in a summarized format. And then I further summarized it to this final sheet, which is the individual sheet called 2011 projected year end after, well, let's not say after audit adjustments. I'm estimating that with the reserve funds that the board moved on, that will increase our reserve funds by $40,905, leaving a projected year-end balance of $63,605. And with the undesignated, after taking in $20,000 from this year's operating surplus and applying it to next year, we'll still have $28,422 to put towards undesignated funds, leaving an undesignated balance of $412,910. There's a couple asterisks there, and if you look down at the bottom of the page, the It refers to the village's policy of having 20 to 25% of the general fund expenses in the undesignated for emergency purposes. Right now, the way the projections are showing, it's estimated that we'll end up with about 27% of undesignated funds to operate with in case of an emergency, which is up from the 23.5 that was at the end of 2010. I guess at this point, I'm just going to allow the board members to ask any questions that they have. I know that you may, well, I'm assuming that you've looked at your resolution, which tells you what the levy limit is, and if you have any questions.
Mr. President, point of order.
Yes, sir.
I think that we should entertain any comments from the public,
Oh,
and
sorry.
then at some point close the public hearing
Right.
before we move into board discussion.
Agreed.
Sorry. You're right.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of closing the public hearing indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Very good. All right.
You're fine. That's fine.
To start off with almost a little bit of point of levity before we get into some serious business here. As I've done in the past, on occasion, something in the Hudson Star Observer and a step back in time catches my eye. And so I have from the Hudson Star Observer, November 17th of this year, 25 years ago, on November 13th, 1986, I'm quoting the Hudson Star Observer, North Hudson levy limit climbs 20%. The village levy is anticipated to go up 20%. The public hearing is on December 1st, 1986. We are proposing this an increase tonight of let me make sure I get this right, 0.015%. And I think accolades are in order for our administrator and administrative staff, as well as to each of the committees and the work that they've done with the chairs or supervisors to be able to operate this village for 2012 with, I'm going to say, somewhat limited resources, limited by mandate and by very judicious spending.
Hello? Yes, Jim. How are you? Good. Hey, Mark. Say we're started the meeting and it was decided that probably wouldn't be able to vote, but you can listen to the meeting. It's your choice. I gotcha. Gotcha. Oh, okay. Oh. Okay, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Okay. Okay. All right, bye.
Thank you, Mark. I'm going to assume that he decided to,
Not listening for
Not
about
listening.
a minute.
very good. I wanted to give you the courtesy of being able to handle that before we moved into any further discussion. And I will open it up for discussion for the board. If you have any questions of Gloria? The other comment I'll make here for the general public is that we began working on the budget for 2012 last August. And this is fairly, well, we do it pretty much every year, don't we, Gloria? We try to start in August. And
I think we started in June this year.
I wonder, did we stop after 2010? We just seem to continue to be working on the budgets all the time, but let's open this up for the board if they have any questions or any comments.
I have a couple.
Go ahead, Dan.
Just going through here and trying to learn what all this is. On the general fund, under 46,910, there's other fees and charges. It's like it's on page 2, 4, 6, 8. Page 7, I guess it is. There's a charge for $4,300, other charges and fees.
Can you tell me on, you said page 7,
Yes.
and the account number is 101-25
46,910.
46,910.
Page 8, I've got it.
Oh, I'm looking at the old one, I'm sorry.
Is that conservation and development?
Yes. And that is a revenue item.
Okay.
That is not an expense item.
Can I ask all my questions, or you want to take turns here? How do you want to
Oh,
do
go
this?
ahead.
Down the page further in, let's see, it would be 48,210. 101-27, 48,210. We had rent village property, $100. Just a question, I know our basement is full of Pepperfest paraphernalia. Do we collect anything for that?
No, we don't rent out to Pepperfest, no.
So the $100 is rent for,
Picnic tables, basically. People come in and rent picnic tables as revenue.
yes,
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
I just had one more, I think. Under the public works, we had snow and ice removal. Let me find the right page here.
It is 19, maybe?
Page 19, yes. I didn't see anything for a salt budget in there.
That is other operating supplies, right under snow and ice.
Okay. And then I had a question with the $15,000 to contract snow and ice, just because this is kind of my specialty. We have 5 employees that we have plowing our streets, and we have 17 miles of streets. It's 3.4 miles per street per employee to plow snow. Not saying the city of Hudson is any better, but I think there's ways. We have 75 miles of street, and we have 10 people plowing. I think we need to look at ways to become more efficient. That's all I want to say on that. And that's all I got.
Good questions.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Going down the row.
Oh, I'm not gonna pick the, $100 here, a couple $100 there and stuff like that through the budget, but we're asking the taxpayers to once again kick in. I mean, it's, we've got, we seem to survived on a 23.5% undesignated. And, we got, they didn't recommend it, or what we've run on before is 25%. With the economy the way it is, and I know where I'm in private sector, so we've lost 30 people. I mean, for, jobs, just in the last couple months. We've got a lot of fixed income people in the village. I just, and granted, we're not taking a 20% increase like they did back in '86 or whatever it is, but right now I don't see where where there is a need to increase this at all. I looked at we had several options that were presented earlier, and to me, I think we could go with the least damaging. We don't have to take a super big hit, but there was one that was like might cut the taxes by $4. $4 is $4. It's not an increase, and I just don't understand the logic or the asking the taxpayers to whether it's $10 or $100 or whatever it is. Everybody wants to go, oh, it's only $10. Well, if we get $10 and the school gets $10 and the county gets whatever, I just don't. I don't see the need for a raise.
I would like to clarify one thing, just so that there's an understanding that we had a project this year, St. Croix Station, and so we're ending up with people who have prepaid on that project, and so that's causing us to have extra revenues this year that we didn't plan on or anticipate, and so that is the reason that there's a residual surplus this year. That's not something that I can guarantee is going to happen next year. And so we can't really count on those one-time or unexpected revenue sources. If I take away those type of things, we could have we probably would have been in the deficit this year. So it's things like that are not an ongoing revenue source. So when we looked at 2012, we looked at what we needed as a basis on our ongoing expenses based on the revenue needed to supply for those expenses.
Are you saying that if you would have projected those one-time revenues in 2012, it would appear that there would be no increase in the levy for 2012? Or what's the point of the one-time revenues as far as what Stan was asking?
Undesignated.
Because he mentioned that
Undesignated has more in there. Okay.
at the end of this year.
Yes,
We're
okay.
anticipating, and we're gonna use, the board had made a motion to move 30,000 of that money into next year. Well, when we got done, we only needed to move 20,000 in. But we are using, some of the surplus from this year is going towards next year's budget. So, but not all of it. There's still that 28,000 that is going into undesignated, but that's not something that we can count on happening again next year.
I raised a concern in finance, and I was in the minority, and I may well be in the minority again on this point. And I'm certainly not attempting to be Don Quixote here. And it's difficult for me to articulate this again because it sounds like it is a negative comment toward our employees, and it's not at all. And it's not personal at all to any employee. I think we have valuable employees. But this budget contains, in my opinion, an excessive increase for personnel expense. And there were comments made in finance that our employees deserve that. That would indicate that if we do not do that, we do not think them deserving. The problem is that we get into a value judgment in looking at the quality and the merit of employees when we should be looking at the financial capacity of the village. There's a great line in The Unforgiven when the character played by Clint Eastwood, William Money, is looking down at Little Bill, Gene Hackman, laying on the floor, and Hackman is saying, "I don't deserve this." And Clint Eastwood says back to him, "Deserve has nothing to do with it." And I think in this case, what I'm trying to say is deserve has nothing to do with this. Our employees may well be quality and meritorious, and I think they are. But the environment that we're in right now is not witnessing growth of personnel expense across the public sector, and certainly not across the private sector. There just is not growth in compensation, and in fact, in the public sector, there's significant contraction. And I think we send the wrong message if we present a budget that would in fact contain the increase in personnel compensation that this one has. And that has nothing to do with the deserve of employees.
The pay rate increase has not been decided on, and after, and I don't know, maybe we should have did it first. You will be going into closed session to decide. I had to put something in there. I can only estimate. I never really got a direction. Well, I did get a direction, and that's what I put in there. So if just because it's in there does not mean that it has to happen.
A recommendation came out of finance, and it's that figure upon which the budget is built, and it has to be built. I understand the point you're making. The numbers that are in front of us contain that recommendation, and that's the point I was making.
Mm-hmm.
Any comments from this side?
Yeah, I have one in general. It doesn't address the specific numbers here. And what we're talking about, we're, I believe, in a shrinking revenue situation for the village. And the economy aside, we know we're dealing with limited funds each year, correct? It means things have to change the way we do things in the village. That's my perception. And when we talked earlier about when we start talking about the budget, June or August, it's too late for things to change. And we end up scrambling and trying to make numbers fit the situation. To get to where I think some of the comments have indicated, I think where Stan's coming from and where what Dan's said is, it's got to start like the next meetings. Is things have to be done differently and looked at, not next June, but starting next month, and figure out how we're going to do some things rather than, well, we got the budget done and we go into a little bit of a honeymoon until next spring, and then Gloria starts reminding people in the summer, starting getting their budgets together. We're all mindful at our committee meetings of, oh, we have a budget to watch, but I've been to very few where we talk about instituting any real changes. And by the time the budget comes along, there's not a lot of time to institute change, and then there's an atmosphere of a little more drama is added to the situation. This year, for example, with the talk about the reduction in the police staff, you know, that appeared to be a knee-jerk reaction. It doesn't mean it's off the table, or it should be discussed in a more less contentious light, if you will. So some of those things, I think we have to start working on sooner to get to where we need to be, and these numbers fall into place. That's where there are. I'm more right, I think, with where the budget's at, because I think we need to do a little better preparation to make the changes necessary and to work into them to reach those zero levy increases or reflect the changing times out there.
I
So
agree.
that's my general feeling towards this and the way we should look at it. And I'm just as remiss. You know, I come to a meeting, we go through the agenda, and we, you know, start worrying about numbers in August and talk about how we look at things. But it has to start sooner.
I agree with you, Mark, that it needs to start sooner, but I disagree that it's the budget process. I think that what needs to start is the board's decisions on what services they're going to.
No, I wasn't talking about the budget processing starting. I'm talking about just that. I'm talking about doing things differently, perhaps.
Right, the services that.
Yes,
And I agree.
That's what I'm talking about, and that takes, for those to go through and to be changed decently, need some time for preparation and to be at least given time to be examined and have a rational explanation for it. If we get into situations where there is a substantial change, I can almost guarantee you in a couple of years it's going to swing right back again. You know, and so it has to be done sooner and talked about sooner rather than August. So dissatisfaction with this budget, to some respects, has to be manifested for the 2013 budget, and start working on it earlier, come up with some ideas, suggestions, and how to change some of these things to get these numbers in line.
I'd like to respond to that. From your comments, it might almost appear to the public that we haven't been doing anything in that regard.
No, I
Just-
said,
Understand?
I'm just saying, if you're looking at a zero increase or more reflective. Now, mind you, when we were at the meeting where we had the police commission here, there was 6 village residents, and the opinion expressed by at least one was they didn't mind the increase. So there is a segment of the population out there that accepts an increase. So, I mean, it's not just one or the other here.
What I'd like to comment on is what our staff has done this year in an effort, just a few things, few of the big ticket items. We refinanced our loans. That saved the village $38,000. We renegotiated a fuel discount that saves us almost $700. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but it does to me. We sent out an RFP for an assessor, and that task alone saves the village $6,760, and that's an ongoing saving, as is the fuel discount. We sent out an RFP for a new auditor. We retained the same auditor, but saved $1,500 in the process. Just those 4 alone has saved the village over almost $47,000. That ain't hay. And it represents putting on our thinking caps, as it were, figuring out, okay, where can we make substantial savings? And to me, $47,000 is a significant chunk of change. To Darrell, I would ask the question, and to Stan, at what point or where down the line would you be able to see the village giving a modest increase to our staff? Or do you want to freeze them for 5 years? Tell them now. Let them know that their salaries are frozen and that they, in effect, their take-home will continue to diminish as we continue to extract more of their salary to pay for more of their insurance.
I wish I could count on a percentage every year that, you know, if you're budgeting for an increase in your salary, that would be really nice to be able to do. I mean, we are on a 0 increase this year. So an increase in my taxes means I'm going backwards. I think there's lots of people that are going backwards if they have an increase in your taxes, whether it's the sewer charge or a fee or whatever it is, the taxpayers are the ones going backwards. And and granted, we've got great employees, but in the present economy, there's not a lot of people. The only ones that are getting increases are the private or are the public sector, and that's. Yes, they haven't paid, yes, they're going to take a hit on their insurance and their benefits. Every one of us takes a hit every year. I'd like, I could share the hit that I'm taking this year on my insurance and on my benefits. We're not talking the exact, I don't know if we're on the same page. Everybody, does their job and would love to have a raise. Those days are gone. I'm sorry, but a modest increase, that's all anybody asks. But if we're increasing taxes, and the taxpayers aren't getting an increase, the taxpayers are going backwards. And I believe that's what we're here for, is to represent the taxpayers.
What you're going to lose this year?
Well, I was somewhat hoping to do that in a private setting, but with a 0% increase, I'm going to be losing almost $4,500 this year, not counting what was last year and the year before. And there's a perception that year after year we've gotten raises. We haven't. We haven't gotten raises in 3 years. There's other municipalities and other corporations that have step increases that we have never had. If the money's not there, we don't do it. And so, again, I just want to make sure that both sides of this is being heard, that it's not, oh, the employees are after more money and they're, to get these big raises. It's not that way. We're giving more than we're even coming close to getting.
I think everybody is. And that's not what I'm saying. That, I understand that there's changes that have been made through all of this, but where's the balance? Yes, I don't know. I'm tired of going backwards. And I have been, and I work for a pretty large company, and I've been going backwards for years.
In response to your question, Mr. President, with all due respect, we're looking at 1 year, we're looking at fiscal 2012, and that would be the context of the comments I made with respect to compensation increase. I think we would be more in line with the vast majority of the public sector in the state of Wisconsin if we had a 0 increase for 2012, and I'm not looking beyond that. Any response to your question about something in the future would be pure speculation, and I'm not able to do that.
I would just like to say I think we should meet in the middle somewhere. I know the city's offering a 1% pay increase. I'm not sure what the county is. Maybe it's 0. But I, like Gloria, I'm taking a $400 a month hit, and it is a hit, and I'm willing to take it. I still have a job. I've been without a job before, and as long as I can keep my benefits and still keep a paycheck coming in and pays the bills, we're all in this together. It's not just the village.
I like a comment that Jim had made during one of our finance meetings in which he said it'd be like a 1% per year raise that they haven't gotten. I'll just throw that out and that is modest. Gloria, in the calculations here, what's the difference in the mill rate between a 0% increase and I'll use the number of 3% increase?
Are you talking 3% of wages?
Yeah. Because I remember we had a sheet on that, and I would have brought it had I anticipated this.
Well, we have the difference in the levy limit, what that would be, but I think it was 10 or, are you talking about the 10 or 12,000 across the board,
Yeah.
estimated. I believe that that is, the number is 12, probably 10 or 12. Let me see, I might have it still.
I'm just wondering, and this is almost a rhetorical question, would the residents of the village begrudge the staff for even a modest increase?
They're not even interested enough to show up at the meeting.
Yeah.
I think you just
So
answered
it's
my
safe to say
question.
that probably the most concerned are here. Or there might be a few out there, but, I mean,
Disregard that down there.
So that would be the difference. That's
Total.
total.
That's 3 departments.
This is what I was looking for.
The difference in retirement, the difference in taxes, the difference in,
It comes to a total of less than $11,000 for a
Correct.
3. It comes to a total of $8.5 or $8,500 for a 2% increase. Would someone care to read the resolution?
whole thing.
Sorry.
Resolution adopting the 2012 annual budget and establishing the property tax levy for the Village of North Hudson. Whereas the village administrator has prepared an annual budget for the 2012 fiscal year in accordance with the requirements of Chapter 2, Administration, Article 5, Finance and Taxation, Division 2, Budget of the North Hudson Village Code. And whereas the village board has reviewed the proposed revenues from all sources and the proposed expenditures for all purposes, and has directed that the proposed budget be adjusted accordingly. And whereas the public hearing on the annual budget was held November 29th, 2011, after due and proper notice of said hearing, having been given in accordance with the provisions of Section 65.90, Wisconsin statutes. And whereas the village board adopted certain resolutions relating to borrowing and levying irrepealable taxes sufficient to pay such borrowing. And whereas it is necessary to levy a property tax in the amount of $1,439,775 to fund the expenses of village government as contained in the 2012 annual budget. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the village board of the Village of North Hudson, Wisconsin, as follows: that the 2012 annual budget, a summary of which is attached hereto and made a part hereof, be and is hereby approved. 2, that the property tax is hereby levied and be placed upon the 2011 tax roll as follows: General Fund, $1,439,000, $1,439,775. 3, that the village administrator is hereby authorized to delete or create expenditure accounts and to reduce or increase the amounts reflected in the annual budget for such expenditure account through the transfer of funds between expenditure accounts with the various departments within the general fund, provided that the authorized expenditure limit of the general fund, exclusive of any contingency appropriation, is not exceeded and the 2012 annual budget is not increased. Pass and
Well, you
Go
can
ahead.
stop there.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion.
I just think that it's pretty impressive that the Finance Committee has worked so hard and was able to have such a small levy increase that it seems like, to me, it's reasonable.
Thank you, Colleen. Again, might I point out the savings that our staff has been able to make this past year. I think it's remarkable. And what they're asking for represents only a percentage, a small percentage of what that savings was. Is there any more discussion? Otherwise, I'll ask for a roll call vote. Dan?
No.
Mark?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Will the board be deciding what is the levy, what the levy is this evening? Because technically, I'm supposed to have our budget or our levy at least up to the county by the 1st or 2nd of December. So,
Let me know when you do.
You coming back?
Yeah, I'll be back. Give me a call.
Someone care to if you're going to vote no, I need to have some. Give me something else.
Option 2.
Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry. Could the budget, the proposed budget that's in front of us tonight with the levy amount that's in it, be approved by this board and then subsequent to this action and consistent with the agenda that is given to us tonight, when the board goes into closed session, could there be consideration given of the amount, the percentage amount that is in the proposed budget for employee compensation increase be modified and incorporated into a final budget?
if you set that levy,
I'm just outside.
if you approve that levy, that is the levy.
I understand
It
it's the
doesn't
levy, but
mean.
the difference could go into undesignated, could it not?
Well, it would, because that's what I said early on, is that just because the percentage of the wages, there's nothing in this budget that you can't go less than and not spend. You can't go more than, but if you decide that you're not going to do snow plowing, then that's a board action, and yeah, then that money would stay within the village. That, by approving this budget does not guarantee the wages, and that's the reason why you guys are going into closed session, is to discuss that. But what it does do is it does set the levy limit at that number, which would be a small increase.
Well, I don't know that snow plowing and employee
I'm just using
compensation
it
is
as an,
analogous.
no,
They
I'm
may or
using
may
it
not
as an
snow.
example. I'm using it as an example.
But employees are going to get a paycheck every week.
I think what Daryl's saying is we should have had the employee wages taken care of before we did our resolution, because that's what's in our budget is the 3%.
It's not guaranteed. What is, there's estimates. That's what the budget is. It's an estimate of doing business for next year. It does not guarantee any staff increases. You guys are going to be the ones that make that decision. if I did bring that forward earlier on and it didn't get taken care of, like I said, I have to give you something on your table tonight to work from. And what I give you is an estimate based on prior information that I've been given. So it does not mean that anything is guaranteed to the staff.
Understand we can spend less, but the difficulty I think several of us face right now is that the resolution that we just voted on, the resolution that's in front of us, if this would have been adopted, we would have been saying to the public that we just approved a proposed 2012 budget for the Village of North Hudson that had across the board 3% salary increases. Now, understand we could spend less, but the message to the public was that we approved the budget with 3%.
So then you're either going to need to change the levy limit, or you're going to pass the levy limit as is and not give the increases, or give the increases, or it's a process. It does not. I've had it work the other way. I've had it work where I've put nothing in the budget for wages, and in January, the board met and gave increases, and then I'm out of whack on my, you're always supposed to go over on expenditures and under on revenue. And there's nothing wrong with that budget. The decision has to be the board's as far as of how that money is spent or how much of that is spent.
What I need, what Gloria needs, is to have a motion with another number in it. If $1,439,775, obviously, is inappropriate or not something you want to adopt, then you need to come up with another number. Is it that simple?
Yes.
Because we can't leave here tonight until we have a number. And that number has to go to the county, and it has to be used for our budgeting for the year 2012.
What would a difference be in that number if we were to split it in half? Instead of do a 3%, we did 1.5.
Well, that'd be halfway. That'd be, can we just slide that over a little bit?
I don't think that we should be, this shouldn't be being discussed at this point, but maybe what you should do is the board should go into closed session, come back out, move the agenda item, and then consider the levy limit. You do your closed session to discuss the wages, and then whatever the decision comes from that, when you come back out, no motions being done in closed session, but when you come back out, that would.
I would agree with Gloria. I think that
Okay.
procedurally would make sense because we are trying to make a decision with a line item, that being compensation. If we would take the reverse and just arbitrarily set a levy amount, then in effect, de facto, we made the previous decision, and I think that's the one we're struggling with.
All I need is a motion to move into closed session.
I'll move.
Second.
I'll read the
Roll call vote.
I'll read the detail on the motion so that it's there for the record. Mark, I'm assuming that you're referring to convening the closed session per 19.851C to consider employment, promotion, compensation or performance evaluation data on any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility regarding employee wages. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Roll call vote. We'll start with Stan.
Yes.
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 This body will be in closed session for an indeterminate amount of time. Let's move into the adjacent room. We've reconvened into open session, and after considerable deliberation, there will be 3 motions. Mr. Stanifer will make the first motion.
Mr. President, I move to reconsider the previous motion adopting the village annual budget and establishing the tax levy.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion about Darrell's motion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right. The next motion will be compensation for the staff. I'd entertain a motion. I need a motion, folks.
I'll move that the staff receives a 1.5% increase in wages.
I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Dan. Any discussion? This will be spending. We'll have a roll call vote. Start with Stan.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes?
Where's the number we went to?
The 1.5.
Yes, apparently, yeah, because we need a
Yes.
majority, right?
And the third motion? The resolution? Do you have the number in front of you, Darrell? I mean, I can read the number. I can even make the motion.
Yeah, you can make the motion.
All right, the resolution, it's still number 2011-18. It is the same as the previous resolution except for item number 2. And I will read it in its entirety, just number 2. That the property tax is hereby levied and placed on the 2011 tax roll as follows. General fund, $1,434,280. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, I think I heard Colleen momentary. Oh, thank you, Gloria just pointed out, there's a whereas statement. Whereas it is necessary to levy a property tax in the amount of, and I'll put that number in there as well, $1,434,280 to fund the expenses of village government as contained in the 2012 annual budget. With that amendment, are you okay with that, Colleen?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote. We'll start this time with you, Dan.
Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
No.
Let the record show that it passed, albeit it wasn't unanimous. By the powers given to me, I adjourn this meeting. Let the clerk show that it was 7:05 when we adjourned.